Nope, that's male.
Do you want me to pull up Spotify?
Yeah, you have Spotify.
My phone is so much smaller than yours. Can we just let this play in the background for the next 30 minutes?
Ghetto love? I don't think so. Hi, I'm Leah Becerra.
I'm Leah Becerra.
And I'm Mikah Sargent, and today we're going to be talking about Apple Music versus
Spotify.
Who will win? Who will be crowned champion? Basically, I like Apple Music, and Leah over here likes Spotify.
Yeah.
She is a runner though, so that kind of makes sense. We're going to compare a few different categories for each of these two music streaming services, and we're going to kind of battle it out and figure out which one comes out the champion, and ultimately which one you should subscribe to.
Yeah. If you want to pay money, because Spotify has a free tier.
Look, they've got Apple Music tips now.
It's about time!
Because it's so hard to figure anything out.
Who doesn't love making a playlist?
We want to start by talking about playlists and how each of them work and how they're different and which one's easier, which one's harder, etc., etc.
On Spotify, you actually have legit playlists that you can create, that your friends create, and that are available for you to listen to. I'm not sure that Spotify actually hand curates them like Apple Music does, but it seems like there's a whole lot more places where you can get those playlists from.
You know, Apple Music, it's basically an extension now of Apple's iTunes, app on the computer or the music app on your phone. You're basically doing things the way that you used to. There's nothing that kind of sets Apple Music apart when it comes to making playlists. So a lot of people do have experience in that, but it's a little tough, especially on your phone, kind of setting up playlists. You have to go through and like search for them, and you tap to add or subtract, and then you're done creating the playlists. However, I will say, kind of what you talked about, Apple has hired an editorial team, and they've got a pretty awesome editorial team who's, they're steeped in music. This is what they do. And so they're putting together playlists for me that I didn't even know were possible. You know, you can come across like the top 50 alternative songs, or, I don't know, there's one called like Ready, Set, Go, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's stuff like intro to insert band's name here. So like for the first couple weeks I was listening to Intro to Modest Mouse. I say couple weeks, but it was only like a few songs, so that's probably not accurate.
Tell me more about this few songs issue you have, because this was something you were griping about.
One of the biggest issues I had with when I was trying to find music on Apple Music was I would scroll through some of the playlists and they'd look really interesting and they would all be something that I'd be wanting to listen to. But it was difficult for me to find the playlist that I wanted to listen to right now, because I was constantly just like scrolling until I found something that tickled my fancy. And then the other thing was, when I actually found one I liked, it was so short. And occasionally, more often than occasionally, I'd be listening to a playlist and I would hear a song and then I would hear the same song 10 minutes later. So I don't know what the heck is going on with that algorithm, why it is so good at replaying songs before actually going through all the songs on the playlist.
It's built in. No, I will say Apple Music kind of got off to a glitchy start, and at least in the beginning I read about tons and tons of complaints there. I venture a guess that that's been fixed, but I don't know for sure. A playlist has 20 songs and you hit shuffle and it goes through and it plays each one individually and doesn't repeat. Another thing that you mentioned was how there are some playlists that have only a few songs. I can imagine that if you've got like one of those armbands or whatever, or you stick it in your pocket, it's like, well,
I
great.
have a runner's fanny pack.
Nice, nice. I get where you're coming from there, and I think that Spotify's, they're kind of based around playlists, really. I think that Spotify wins playlists. It hurts me to say, but I think you win there. But then we're gonna talk about music discovery. And here is where I'm going to win, friends.
So the best form of music discovery on Spotify is the Discover Weekly playlist. And I love this. This is something that I think is fantastic. Part of the reason I think it's fantastic is because I literally just turn it on, let it play, and I feel like it never really runs out. for my use. When they first started doing Discover Weekly playlists, it was kind of spotty at first, but then I started interacting with the playlist a little bit more, sometimes adding those songs to my personal curated playlist, sometimes starring them, things like that, and over time I feel like it's gotten more into what I'm into.
The same thing goes, frankly, for Apple Music. So the biggest thing here is you get out what you put in, and you really have to be going, I like this song or I don't like this song. At least for Apple Music, under Discovery, it's constantly looking at what you like and what you don't like. So Apple Music, one of my favorite features of Apple Music is called the For You tab. If you ever used Beats Music, it starts that exact same way. Whenever you first sign up for an Apple Music account, it has these little bubbles that pop up. Tap once to say you like it, tap twice to say you really like it, or hold, and then it disappears, and that means you hate it. So Apple Music takes all that into account, and it kind of like gives you a base playlist. But then as you're scrubbing through, and you're seeing different playlists that it's giving you, and you're like, oh gosh, why would I care about Intro to Justin Timberlake? I will say I don't like this suggestion. And what that does is it tells Apple Music, don't recommend him any playlists to do with Justin Timberlake, at least if like the main focus of the playlist is Justin Timberlake.
So how did you find out how to curate this further? Because I think to the average user, you would not know to do that.
Yeah, so here is again one of the problems with Apple Music is I don't think Apple did a good job of providing instruction and you know, frankly, just being intuitive. Apple's usually very good at being intuitive, but here I think they kind of failed us a little bit, or failed the average user, because there are a lot of options and a lot of different things you can do in Apple Music, but how do you get to them? Basically, Apple Music, its whole thing is music discovery. So it is constantly looking at the music that you like or you don't like. You actually hit a little heart button to say that you like something, and it's doing that on your phone, it's doing that on your computer, it's doing that everywhere. And all of that is used to kind of plug into a computer that then spits out playlists and music that's curated by human beings. So that's the cool thing about Apple Music. What a computer can do and what a human can do are two different things whenever it comes to music, because there's a lot of like emotion and feels that go into music. So I just think that, you know, while Spotify is built around like tons of music available, you can always go and look and find things, Apple I think does a better job of bringing it to you. So that's why I would argue that Apple Music wins Discovery.
As long as you know how to use it.
Which is our next topic, Leah. Why don't we talk about usability?
At least the first day, especially. I was in love with the way the Apple Music app looked. It looks great.
Ding.
And then, like a week in, I started to get kind of tired of the way it looked, and I started to get a little confused about what I needed to do next. If you never read the instructions or you never got any, I don't know, instructional video or tips, I just don't see how you would ever know it. Part of being able to use an app and really enjoying it is to just say like, wonder what happens when I do this. Oh, that's so cool, that was awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, if there's one category where I'm not really going to argue for Apple, for Apple Music, it's this. Because the only reason that I knew how to use the app at all was because I'm a techie person, as you are.
We invest time and we invest research into really digging in deep and making sure that we get the best experience.
Exactly. And not everybody, A, has the time for that, B, knows where to go to make that happen, or C, is interested in doing that. So, Apple Music is not easy to use. There are still things that I'm discovering how to use, and that should, I mean, I think it's fair for me to say that you and I should not, knowing what we know about technology and being able to help so many people with technology, it should not be tough for us to use an app. And this app has so many, I mean, even just now I was trying to get rid of a playlist as I was talking to you all, and I accidentally brought up the playlist instead of being able to say that, instead of being able to say that I don't like it. It's too tough for me. So for the layman, the person who isn't steeped in technology all day, that's way too tough.
It's very non-Apple. When you think of Apple, you think minimal, you think it's very airy, it's easy to get around, it's intuitive. And this app, though it is pretty, it's just It's not very logical.
You've got like all of these extra options that are just buried beneath the face of it. And so that becomes an issue. I mean, it's tough to kind of scroll through here and go, okay, so I want to play a song and I can't play a song for you all because that would be against the rules. So we'll just skip that part.
And people have had this app for 3 months now and they don't get it.
So Leah, tell me about the usability of Spotify now that we've both beat up on Apple Music. Is this how this is supposed to work? I didn't think that was what we were doing here.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Spotify's been out for a really long time, and I've been using it for a long time. God, I can't even remember the first version of a Spotify app. I can't remember if I disliked it or what, but I feel like they started out with, if I remember correctly at least, a really, really simple base model app, and since then they've been slowly adding on features. From that aspect, it's probably easier to use just because we've spent more time with it and they've been changing it really gradually, whereas Apple Music was really new right away and there's a ton of things to learn really quickly.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. But the reason why I think Spotify is so easy is because you've got your main menu button that you intuitively know to click it to get more information. You've got a lot of things that exist in responsive web design nowadays that you just see it and you know because you've used it in so many other versions of apps before.
I will say too, the great thing about the Spotify Music app is that everything is kind of based on layers. So you have, you open the app and you have your main layer, and then you click the little hamburger button, as it's sometimes called, and you drop into a new layer. And you kind of always know where you are in the app.
Yeah.
It's one main tab. There aren't like 5 different options for tabs at the bottom. It's so simple in comparison. I'm sorry, Apple Music, but Spotify is just far more usable.
Maybe they should have thrown it in front of a few grannies before they launched the app.
As you said, Leah, I think it's a fair point that Spotify has existed for a lot longer. We're familiar with the Spotify app.
Yeah.
And we have used other music apps, and we know how those work. So why did Apple choose to, throw things out the window, kind of the conventions out the window? But here it's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
where do I go?
It very much feels like they were just trying to set themselves apart from the rest of the pack.
Yeah.
And they did that, but they also...
In a bad way.
Yeah.
Perhaps price is the only one that could outrank. I think usability is the most important feature above anything else, because the layman is not going to be as concerned with the look of the thing. They're not going to be as concerned with discovery. They're not going to be as concerned with some of these other kind of power user features. They're going to want to know how to use the darn thing in the first place. But while we're talking about the thing that outranks usability, which is cost, we should probably go ahead and talk about how Spotify and Apple Music go hand in hand, really.
They both have a paid version, and the paid versions are actually the same price, $9.99. But Spotify does have a free tier. Yeah. This has been talked about a lot, how artists aren't getting paid enough money through the Spotify free tier. Well, the reason they're not making as much money as they would have from us paying $10 a month to listen to the service is because advertising and commercials are actually paying for the free tier. You get commercials, I don't even know how often it is. If I had to guess, maybe 10, 15 minutes, you get a commercial or two. Occasionally you get a free half hour of listening that's sponsored by somebody, but it just sounds like a quick little commercial. They're never very long. I think the longest one might be close to a minute, if that.
Is this your free 30-minute stream?
Yeah, see, it says, want a break from the ads? Watch this short video to receive 30 minutes of ad-free music.
All right, let's watch. Oh, it's
it's
from
for
Spotify. And what I was talking about before was I'm a spoiled human.
You hate ads.
The spoiled human hates ads and knows that the spoiled human can pay to not have ads, therefore the spoiled human pays to not have ads. So for some people, they're not bothered by ads, but if you are, there's really no, plus or minus for either one when it comes to cost. If you're gonna go for the paid version in either place, then you're looking at the same price no matter what. let's talk a little bit about the communities in the two apps, or in the two services rather. For Apple Music, the community is a bit different. It's kind of artist focused, so it's not necessarily about connecting with your friends. It's more about, here is a place for you to go to connect with the artists and see what they are doing, what they're saying, what music they're producing, etc., etc.
And on Spotify, it's a place for, you can still actually connect to your artists too, but you can also connect with your friends. So I actually follow a few of my friends' playlists, and a few of my friends follow my playlist, which is fantastic.
Nice.
Because I remember when Spotify was still this hip, cool, young people thing.
What are you saying, Leah? It's not for young people anymore?
And we were in college, and my friends were over, and I was playing my Spotify playlist. And they're like, oh, this is such a great playlist. Where are you getting this from? So I just shared that with them.
Cool.
So they've been listening to it for 4 or 5 years now. Oh my God, it's really been that long.
Wow. See, that is the one thing that I like about Spotify's playlists and the way that they kind of like, you share out things. When I tap to share in Apple Music, it's like, hey, listen to this song in Apple Music, versus what I'm really trying to do, which is, hey, here's what I'm listening to right now. You can give a listen to if you want. Here's a link. So one of them is like, buy this song, and one of them is like, I just want to share what I'm listening to right now, and I happen to like this song. So there's kind of a different philosophy there. And with one, you know, I made a playlist called Songs of My People. It was previously called the Hipster Playlist, and I changed it to Songs of My People. And it's a public playlist, and there are a few people who follow this playlist, and they can get access to it. Where with Apple Music, you know, the playlists that you share are typically based around the curated stuff that their workers make, or the, you know, an album or a specific song from someone, versus like, hey, this is what I'm building, this is what I'm creating. I think it's a philosophy difference here. You know, it is kind of cool that Apple is big enough, and it has encouraged enough artists to go, hey, we'd love if you'd put like, maybe you're trying out a new piano single, or you know, you're writing up a new piano jingle for your single. There is an opportunity to connect with the artists in ways that you might not get to in other places. Personally, this comes down to which one are you more interested in? Connecting with friends and being able to share playlists with those friends, or connecting with your, you know, your idol, your musical idol.
Which, if I were gonna do that, I would just go to Twitter. So
and that's kind of been the argument from the beginning, is why would they want to drop their latest text-based thought or photo in Apple Music when they can put it on Twitter and potentially reach more people? Those services only serve as a good thing if there are enough people on them and there are enough people interacting. And I will say there are a lot of people interacting on the Apple Music Connect. I'm not personally a user. I don't really get fanatical about too many people, except maybe Tim Cook and Steve Jobs. Who knows? Maybe that's why I'm arguing for Apple Music.
I used to go to concerts all the time, so maybe if Apple Music came out 15 years ago, God, I spent so much money on concert tickets.
Were you a
and
fanatic?
Like actual CDs. I used to buy CDs.
Mercy. Tell me you've got like a bunch of band t-shirts stashed away somewhere.
I think I do.
Yes. Well, that's one thing that Spotify does do. They sell like t-shirts and other apparel. So,
yeah,
you know, Spotify seems to be the right platform for you, Leah. I don't know. But again, this boils down to philosophy, to choice. If you're more interested in connecting with the artists, then probably, at least in this specific category, Apple Music is the one to go. If you're more interested in connecting with friends and sharing with friends, then Spotify is the place to go.
If we're going to talk about the price you pay, $10 if you choose to pay, what extra things do you get for that price? What is unique to Apple Music, Mikah?
I honestly don't think there are many differences between the platforms. I don't think that...
Library is pretty much the same.
Yeah, everything in the library is on average about the same. It's always like, I have over 70 million songs. I have over 75 million songs.
Either way, it's a ton of songs.
Yeah, it's a lot of... So let's go down the list of categories and see who comes out the winner.
Playlist. Spotify.
Okay. Discovery. Apple Music.
Usability.
Spotify. And cost. It's the same. And Artist Connect versus Friend Connect. Whether you want to connect with your friends or you want to connect with artists. Again, that's a toss-up.
Friendship
Versus
idolship.
Idolship, I guess. I don't know. Some people say you shouldn't idolize, so really, ultimately, it's kind of a toss-up here, you know? I think what we've kind of come to the conclusion of here is it just depends on the person.
Yeah.
And I hope that Apple Music gets a little bit easier and they do a better job with their app. Yeah. Bye! And we would love to hear your thoughts, obviously. I want to know which app you're using out there. Maybe you're not using either. Maybe you're using like a Rhapsody
Tidal.
or Tidal.
Yeah.
Yeah, the high-quality music streaming service with Jay-Z. Curious to hear what you think, and we appreciate you tuning in.